Good afternoon. Over the past few weeks, many of our residents have asked me questions. A few of them have been asked several times, so I thought today would be a good time to answer some of them. As you know, we are slated to move to Phase 4 of the Restore Illinois plan on June 26th. For this reason, many of you have been asking what this will mean to you. I will answer this the best that I can. Please understand that the governor and state agencies have not communicated anything other than what you have seen and heard publicly stated. With that said, here is some of what you can expect. Restaurants to open for indoor dining with limited capacity, movie theaters to open with capacity limits, health and fitness centers will open with some restrictions. The Centennial Park pool should be able to open with some capacity limits. Entertainment venues such as Gizmo, Sky Zone, Dave & Buster's, and others will be allowed to open with some restrictions. Restrictions on businesses that are already open will be loosened. The governor's Phase 4 may still require the use of masks. However, I should note that the Village of Orland Park has never enforced the use of masks due to constitutional and legal issues. We still will not. Additionally, I will note that expert guidance from every other source I am aware of does not require the use of masks in this phase. Why did the Secretary of State leave the village? The Secretary of State decided to leave the Village Hall and Orland Park entirely. The Orland Park Express facility was temporarily closed in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Prior to that time, village staff has been in ongoing communications with members of the Secretary of State's office regarding various options for this location. In December of 2019, discussions were started regarding formalizing the Secretary of State's use of the Orland Park Village Hall. The village board voted 7-0 to start those discussions, when it was determined that the Secretary of State has never had a formal agreement with the village. That request included that proper insurance and indemnification be put in place to protect the taxpayers of Orland Park and that a market-based rent be paid like other tenants of the Village Hall. The Secretary of State and staff instead countered that the facility available at the Village Hall was too small to meet the Secretary of State's office long-term needs and instead suggested relocation. Knowing this, and in the best interest of all parties, the village committed to allowing the office to stay at our facility until a seamless relocation could be made. Our village staff began working collaboratively with the Secretary of State staff to locate a space that would meet the short and long-term goals of the Secretary of State's office. Village staff contacted numerous local property owners and provided multiple leads. Additionally, village staff took the Secretary of State staff on a tour of available properties that met their prerequisite requirements. Ultimately, the Secretary of State representatives chose an ideal location at the Marley Creek Shopping Center because it met every prerequisite and would have enabled their office to provide expanded and enhanced services, including Real ID. As most of you know, the Orland Park Express facility did not provide Real ID services. After the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Secretary of State staff realized their inability to safely operate at Village Hall while meeting appropriate safety protocols. Therefore, village staff went the extra mile to get the Marley Creek property owner to agree to provide a rent-free temporary space so that the Secretary of State operations would experience no additional downtime while their new permanent lease was negotiated and build-out was completed. Our village staff led the charge to assist the Secretary of State's office in formalizing a lease agreement and quickly pivoted to meet each new request, going so far as to identify spaces meeting their needs, setting up meetings with landlords, and even negotiating rent-free transitional space to ensure no additional downtime following the COVID-19 closures. In fact, village staff even offered free moving assistance to reduce the operational and cost burden on the Secretary of State office. Even while they were moving out of the Village Hall, we were continuously informed that they were relocating to the Marley Creek Shopping Center. Only upon completion of move-out, when we inquired about the new address to assist their customers in finding their new location, were we told that the Orland Park location was permanently closed. Subsequently, the spokesperson for the Secretary of State's office disingenuously indicated that I demanded the closure of the facility. This demonstrated a complete lack of respect to the people of Orland Park, who, for a quarter century, provided the Secretary of State's office rent-free facilities. I can only assume that since the spokesperson went to several outlets in a coordinated fashion, that this was an orchestrated political attack. The taxpayers of Orland Park contribute approximately $250 million in tax revenue annually to the state of Illinois, for which we receive a fraction in return. It is unfortunate that the state of Illinois continues to disrespect the people of Orland Park and our region. I have sent a letter that urges them to follow through with their original plans and relocate into another facility in Orland Park. Many of you have also asked what is required to move on to Phase 5. According to the governor, moving to phase 5 requires a vaccine, effective treatment, or eradication. It is likely that none of these things will happen in our lifetime. This is a major reason for our lawsuit. It is unacceptable for one person to permanently alter our way of life like this. What began as an effort to ensure that our hospital resources were not overwhelmed now is requiring that the virus be eradicated. The motive behind this is not health, because every expert, the CDC, the WHO, every state, and every country uses the same or similar metrics as other phases to move into the final phase. Eradicating this virus could take years, decades, or centuries, if it is ever achieved at all. I, for one, will not give up my constitutional rights indefinitely on the whims of one person. If our lawsuit does not have the desired effect, then I will again call on the legislature to do its job. Several residents have also expressed concerns about our senior community and COVID-19 and want more information. The village board and I share those concerns. As you are aware, the data indicates that COVID-19 is especially dangerous for our senior population. Over 55% of deaths statewide are in long-term care facilities, though they represent only 15% of cases. Case fatality rates are also many times higher in long-term care facilities than the rest of the state. The Illinois Department of Health is the sole regulating body for long-term care facilities, and they have taken no actions to address this issue. This is unacceptable. The village can do very little to regulate this, but we are looking at our options. Additionally, the Restore Illinois plan, since the beginning, has failed to address our senior populations. The village board, other mayors, and I have asked the governor repeatedly to modify this plan to address our seniors and long-term care facilities. To date, we have received no response. In my opinion, this is negligent. Our return to normal plan addresses both seniors and long-term care facilities. Seniors should shelter in place until we completely reopen as much as possible, and long-term care facilities should not allow visitors until we are completely reopened. These recommendations follow the guidance from the CDC and federal government. I will continue to ask the governor to update Restore Illinois to address our senior population. Also, IDPH must provide better guidance and regulation of long-term care facilities. If you recall, 13 people died of Legionnaires at a veterans facility in Quincy, Illinois, and it was in the news for 18 months. It baffles me that as the number of deaths from long-term care facilities continue to grow and will likely surpass 4,000 people, that there has been no outcry on this. I will not stop beating this drum. Thank you all for the questions today, and I hope this information helps.